The Miami Heat have turned a 10-game losing streak into a 6-game winning streak behind some incredible play behind Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo and company. What does this mean for the Miami Heat going into the week and some change left of the regular season? We're going to talk about all of that and a little bit more here on this edition of Heat Digest. My name is Manuel Buroz, and before we get into it, first things first, make sure you guys are continuing to subscribe to the Heat Digest community. You guys are doing a great job at continuing to grow this community, and we only ask you guys keep hitting that subscribe button, especially if you're coming back on the regular and checking in on the videos. You're already coming back anyway, so why not subscribe? Like I mentioned, the Miami Heat went from losing 10 in a row to now putting up on a 6-game winning streak with 6 games left to go in the regular season. Things have been really going the Miami Heat's way, in my opinion, when we talk about a complete turnaround. A complete turnaround that a lot of people will maybe tell you, well, it's the Miami Heat being the Miami Heat. And while that might be true, we still got to deep dive into these numbers because these are exactly the type of numbers we have been looking for from this Miami Heat crew. When we look at the team, so the 6 games that they've been playing, they've beaten the Hornets, the Warriors, the Hawks, the Sixers, the Washington Wizards, and the Boston Celtics just recently. And they will be playing against the Memphis Grizzlies, coming this afternoon, this evening at 7:30. You look at the numbers, they're averaging just under 120 points per game. They're grabbing 42 rebounds, getting 28 assists, which is a pretty good number, especially in today's game where we really want to emphasize moving the ball. The steal department, that's where we're looking at. The Miami Heat's defense has been very, very impressive. That's a big nod to Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo. We look at the blocks, the steal aspect, the perimeter defense, being able to get deflections, playing long and athletic, which is what we are. That is what we have on this roster. The shooting has been another big contributing factor in all this, shooting 47% almost from the three-point line while shooting almost 53% from the field. That's going to be the biggest part. I know we talk a lot about what happened a few years ago when the Miami Heat were able to get that deep playoff run that ended up coming into an NBA championship appearance, NBA Finals appearance, and everybody was saying, well, look at the way they're shooting. That's true, but that still holds weight. If the Miami Heat do find their shot at this moment, we've seen what happened. So we're not going to sit here and say this can't happen again, but we also understand that it's going to take a lot more than just some good shooting for the Heat to be able to come out into the postseason and make some actual noise. One big person that I think is going to continue to have to be an increment part of this offense is Bam Adebayo. These are Bam Adebayo's numbers in the 7 games. He's averaging 19 points, 7 rebounds, just under 8 rebounds, 4 assists just about, with a steal a game, as well as just over a block. He's getting there. This is the biggest part. Bam Adebayo's numbers have been absolutely, I think, the underlying factor in all of this. If he's able to put up 19 points per game on a consistent basis when he's pretty much run around 16 to 17 all year, we've been asking for him to have offensive nights where he is maybe not the go-to guy. And I think everybody's kind of put that to rest. I don't think anybody's going to look at Bam Adebayo as the go-to scorer. But that doesn't mean you can't put up 11, 27 every now and then, 12, 16, 28, 21. If you're able to have those 20-point per game performances more consistently, then we're going to be in a better place. But I think that 19 to 17 range, I think that's where Bam Adebayo is making the most money, making the most out of his opportunities. At the end of the day, that's where I think everybody in the Heat community, everybody in the Heat nation wants. No one is looking at him to be a 25-point per game scorer. You don't need that from Bam Adebayo, but you need him to be able to have 17 to 19 a game, and you definitely need him to be able to have almost 8 rebounds per game. You need those type of rebounding performances from Bam Adebayo. The shooting has also been pretty good, 49%. That's very consistent, again, efficient, especially if you're going to be around the rim and you're not really going to spread the floor like we honestly would like him to. If you're going to be able to just shoot that mid-range pull-up, if you're going to be able to get to that short corner jumper, that free throw line jumper, you're going to have to shoot it at a consistent rate and probably almost higher than like a 3-point percentage, just because in today's day and age, yes, that's space on the floor, but some teams will be okay with Bam Adebayo shooting those jumpers. So we got to make sure that for Bam's sake, he's able to get to his spots and knock down these jumpers at a consistent rate, because that'll open up the entire floor. Now, we don't want Bam Adebayo necessarily or need him to be a 20-point per game scorer, but someone we do need to be a 20-point per game scorer is, of course, Mr. Tyler Hero. These are Tyler Hero's numbers in these 6 games now. 29, 20, 36, 30, 27, and 25. Averaging just under 28 points per game is what we need, and honestly, I think what we've come to expect from Tyler Hero, especially when we talk about the season he's had. Again, all-star nod, been the best player for the Miami Heat, the most consistent player for the Miami Heat all year. If he's able to have about 4 rebounds a game, that's also a nice addition, but the assists for me is the biggest thing. You can't see the turnovers right here because I had to cut it off the screen, but having just over, I believe, 2 turnovers, maybe even less than 2 turnovers a game, and you're having close to 6 assists per game, that's a great turnover. That's a great assist to turnover ratio. That's a 3-to-1 turnover ratio, just about, depending on the numbers. That is what we need from Tyler Hero. And if you add in the defense, again, 1.7 steals. No one's sitting here saying Tyler Hero is an amazing defender, because he's not. We all know he's not a great defender. But if he can be a pest on defense, he's able to get these 1 to 2 steals per game, that will help us be able to eliminate some of the other things that are going to come on that side of the floor when it comes to Tyler Hero being out there. And we've seen people pick on him. As long as you don't become a liability and you're actually out there putting effort and making sure that you are contributing on the defensive side of the ball, that's all we ask for here for Heat Nation. That's all we want. And you look at the numbers, shooting the ball, only averaging 6 3-point attempts, I think also contributes to the 28 points per game almost. Because while Tyler can shoot the ball and he's a very good shooter, sometimes, and he's not the only one in the league that does this, but they fall in love with the 3-ball. As long as you're able to have efficient numbers, again, if you have 2 for 5, 4 for 6, you can't have those 0 for 6 nights. Like, those are the type of numbers that you can't have. I think him putting up 6 3-point attempts per game, I think that's a good number. I think that is a number that we can survive on going into the postseason. If that number gets up to like 7, 8, 9 attempts per game, and you're not shooting a good enough clip, and I mean a good enough clip, then we're really going to have to start looking at, all right, where are the shots coming from? Are they really good shots? Do we really want you taking a lot of these shots? Probably not. That's going to contribute to the efficiency, because if you're not going to look at Bam Adebayo as being a 20-point per game scorer, and Tyler Hero will be the only one for now until I feel we get Andrew Wiggins more accustomed to the offense and other things, I think the efficiency from Tyler Hero will be where we live or die on, which isn't breaking news. It's not something that people haven't already talked about, but it's going to be even more evident. If Tyler Hero wants to prove to not just himself and in the organization, but the league, that he is a top guy in this league, in the association, you got to be able to take on this type of pressure and move with it and work with it and be able to come out on the other side of it when your team needs you the most. Especially, again, we're looking at a deep playoff run if we're going to get into late April, late May, and possibly June if we can get to there. So that's really going to be an important thing. But when you look at them together, I think that's another part of this that you got to look at. In these 2 games, these are the past 6 games. These are the past regular season numbers for Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. It's been these 2. These are the 2 that need to step up. They're the 2 that have always, been on the side of potential, the potential for the Miami Heat. They're going to somebody's going to want to go play with them because of what Tyler and Bam can do and this and that. And it's all true. But the potential is gone. The potential thing is gone. It's now or never. We're going into a very important offseason here, past the postseason. We're no matter what, even if the Miami Heat win a championship this year, which no one is pecking them to do that. No one is sitting here saying, we're going to build something for the future here. Something's going to come in this offseason. We've already seen the Kevin Durant rumors. We've already, the Jimmy Butler trade already happened. We've already seen rumors about the team breaking it up. We've already seen some rumors about the team tank. Like, we've seen it all. There is something coming in the horizon for the Miami Heat. Don't know what it is. Don't know who it is, but there's something coming. This offseason will be determined by what these 2 right here can do for us. If they go into the postseason and prove, hey, these 2 not going to be number 1 options, but they can be really, really good 2 and 3s. All right, someone out there is going to be able to do that. Pat Riley and the staff can be like, all right, what can we do to try and mold this team a little bit differently to more accommodate for Tyler and Bam? But if these 2 don't go do that, then we're going to be looking at hit the panic button, hit the hard reset button, and we redo everything and try and figure out how to do it better this time around. All right, those are the 6 games that the Miami Heat have been playing. Those are the 6. That's their winning streak. Those are the takeaways for me from this 6-game winning streak. Now we move on over to everybody's favorite, Miami Heat culture's favorite 2 words: play-in. The play-in tournament, the Miami Heat are pretty much locks in it. They're going to be in it, barring anything crazy. We're going to talk a little bit here about the seeding for the play-in in a moment here. But according to a lot of the analytics and the reports, it looks like it will be the Bulls, the Heat, and the Hawks for the 3rd straight season in some type of order. And we look here real quick at the overall 6 games or so that are left for each team. Now, we're going to start with the Bucks. Why? Because the Bucks right now sit in the 6th seed. They are the final tier team that will be avoiding the play-in tournament. Now, they are 7.5 games ahead of the 10th seed, which is the Bulls. And I want to say they are, if I remember the math correctly, about 3.5 games. Actually, no, they're about 4 games, almost 4.5 games, maybe even above the 7-seeded Magic. So that's kind of where they are. They're going to be hard to catch. Now, you look at these next 6 games, a big one coming up, obviously, with the Heat on April 5th. But you got Philadelphia. They just came out with a report that the big 3 for Philadelphia will be done for the season. So don't really expect too much out of there, barring anything crazy from the Sixers. Miami, New Orleans, Minnesota, New Orleans again, Detroit. Out of these, is that 7 games? I do think the Philadelphia one's going to be a win. I don't know what Miami can do against Milwaukee. I think Miami can beat them, especially at home. The Pelicans one, I'm looking at as a win for Milwaukee. Minnesota, we'll throw that one a loss for Milwaukee, even though it could be a win for sure, but I'm going to throw that one a loss. Same thing with New Orleans, another win. So that's 3 wins right there, guaranteed in my opinion. And you got Detroit. I think they can split. I think Detroit can get one at home. So we'll say the Bucks, realistically, they're looking at a 4-3 in these next 7 games, give or take. That's going to keep them the 6th seed. That'll keep them the 6th seed, barring again, they go on a 7-game losing streak pretty much. They've locked up the 6th seed. Now, when we look over to the Magic side of things, they're a little bit different here. Now, they've got 5 games left. They've got Washington, win there. The Hawks, very important game there, so I don't really know who's going to win that one because of it could, again, playing seeding is very important. Boston, that's going to be a loss in my opinion. So you're down. So now you're 1-1 right now through 3 games probably. Then you've got Indiana. I think the Magic could probably take Indiana even on the road. So we're looking at a 2-1. The Hawks again. With 2 Hawks games and a Boston game left, there's a world where the Magic fall lower in the play-in picture, and they could go lower than Miami, especially when we look at the Miami Heat's next 6 games. So the Magic are a team to watch for, with completely realistic that they go, let's say they lose both those Hawks games. I think they lose that Boston game right there. You go 2-3 in your last 5. That's going to be a tough to hold on to that 7 seed with the Miami Heat. I believe from 7 to 10 is separated literally by 3.5 games. So if you go 2-3 in your last 5 games, you are in jeopardy of falling out of the double elimination side of the play-in tournament to the single elimination side, which is that 9-10 range. Now we go over to Miami, who right now is in the 9th seed. They are a little bit different. They're a little bit different here. Now, I only did the Bucks, Hawks, Heat, and Magic. Did not do the Bulls because I do think the Bulls are going to sit in the 10th spot. I don't think they're going to be any world where they move up. But for the Heat, 7 games left. Again, they got Memphis tonight. Then they got Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Chicago, New Orleans, Washington. Favorable 6 games for Miami. Now, the winning streak will be tested, and I believe tonight and against Milwaukee. I don't know if they're going to go to 7 or 8 in a row. But aside from those 2 games, if you look at the back end, those last 4 games, I got Philadelphia. I got that's a win. I think New Orleans can be a win. I think Washington's a win. And I'm going to throw the Bulls in there. There is a world where the Miami Heat, if they can survive or if they can handle business in these next 2 games against Memphis and Milwaukee, there is a world where they go into the postseason on a 12-game winning streak. I know that's a big stretch, so I'll say realistically, I think we could go in a 4-game winning streak. Now, with the 4-game winning streak, you're in the 9th spot. You can definitely move up to at least 8 because, again, the Magic are in jeopardy of falling out because of their tough schedule, their last 5 games. And when we look at the Hawks here in a minute, they're not in the best situation either. Now, when we look at the Hawks, they've got New York, Utah, Orlando, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Orlando again. New York, I'm chalking that one as a loss. I really am. Utah, give you a win. So you're 1-1 right there. Orlando, I think they're going to fight tooth and nail for you, and I think they split with the Hawks for these last 2 games. So that's at least another loss right there. Brooklyn's probably going to be a win. Philadelphia's probably going to be a win. There's a world where the Hawks drop those 3 games, New York, Orlando, and Orlando. Those, you know how it be in the last week of the regular season. This is where guys are fighting for roster spots, fighting for minutes, fighting for contracts. If you're trying to get another contract, if you're a role player or someone trying to find a team next year. So don't be surprised if someone on the Jazz, someone on the Nets, someone on the Sixers has an out-of-body experience and now cost the Hawks a game. All in all, I'm doing this to show you guys there is a world when we talk about play-in seeding that the Miami Heat can go from 9 right now to at least 8. Now, that's a big deal because, again, you go from having one single elimination side of the play-in bracket to 2 elimination side, this double elimination side of the play-in bracket. Again, if you're 7-8, if you lose that first game, then you'll drop down to try and play for the 8th seed. If the Heat can do that, I think we're going to be locked in, go to the playoffs. If you do that, we talked about all the draft stuff and the lottery and everything like that, so I'm not really going to dive into that one. But that's a good aspect, I believe, for the Heat moving forward because they will lose this draft pick, but they'll be able to get more on the back end because even if they tank and don't make the postseason, you keep your lottery pick, I don't think, barring anything crazy, you're going to get anything higher than maybe a top 10 pick, and that's even asking for a lot. So there's a world where the Miami Heat do get into the postseason as a 7th seed, possibly, because now if we're talking about you're playing the Hawks in the first round, I can see the Miami Heat definitely winning that series, definitely winning that game. It's a one-game situation. You make yourself a 7th seed. If the Heat are a 7th seed, they will most likely play Boston. If the Heat are the 8th seed, they will play Boston. If the Heat are the 8th seed, they will play Cleveland. My personal opinion, I like us against Cleveland a lot more. Miami right now is 1-2 against Cleveland. They are 1-4 or 1-3 against the Celtics after last night's victory, which again a lot of us probably didn't have on our bingo card, which I'm all here for. I do have the numbers here when we talk about the Miami Heat and versus those two teams. So I'm going to pull that up here real quick. So I'm using StatMuse. So I did it from both angles. So this is the numbers of Boston versus Miami. So they're averaging about 104 points per game. They're getting about 23 assists. They're having 5 steals per game pretty much against Miami, which is not bad on Miami side of things. Pretty much meaning you're not allowing too many live ball turnovers. Now, that doesn't mean you're not turning the ball over a lot, but at least live ball wise, meaning it's a steal or anything like that, is down a little bit, and that's a good thing, especially playing against a Boston team whose defense can be very, very stout at times. Boston's shooting about 45% from the field against Miami. They're shooting about 33% from the three-point line, which take that what you will, because Boston just shoots so many threes that you might look at 33 and be like, well, that's not great. It's not amazing. But again, you're shooting 55, 53, 50, and 43 three-point attempts per game, or attempts a game. Your 33% is not a bad number at all. So these are the numbers against them. The biggest thing for me that jumps out of here is, again, the steals. If the Miami Heat are going to play the Boston Celtics in the playoffs, I think the biggest thing is going to be, aside from the three-point line, because Boston shoots so many threes. Like, you're not going to limit them from, even if you go from them averaging right here, they're averaging about 50 against Miami. Even if you cut that in half, 25, that's still a lot of threes. And you're not going to make all of them, obviously, but you're going to make a pretty good clip with the talent that they have. So I'm not really too focused on three-pointers. I'm more focused on the steals. Boston's going to get their numbers because they're just that good of a team. You cannot afford to give them extra possessions, extra chances to get open dunks, get fast break threes. Those are the worst ones. To get trailed threes, those type of things. Get the crowd into it off these steals. So I think that's the biggest number. If he can keep it 5 steals, again, you got to look at the turnover number, but if they can keep the live ball turnovers to a minimum, then I think they're going to put themselves in the best situation possible. Now, when we look at the Miami side of things here, it's a little bit different. So these are the numbers for Miami versus Boston. So they're averaging about 97 points per game. Big reason for that is that last game that they had 124 points that they were able to put up. They're shooting about 31% from the three-point line. I'll give them 32. They're shooting 41% from the field. The number that jumps out to me in this one, offensive rebounds. The Miami Heat are averaging about 10 offensive rebounds per game. So it kind of goes back to what I mentioned with second chance or extra opportunities. If you're keeping your steal number down against Boston, but you're crashing the boards hard, I think that's a good recipe to try and compete against the Boston Celtics. Granted, one thing you have to understand with the Boston Celtics, they shoot so many threes and they want to run so fast that you're going to get chances to get offensive rebounds, so you got to crash hard. 4 games, Miami went 11, 12, 7, and 11. That's good. If you're able to get, again, 10 offensive rebounds, granted, you're not going to score all of them, but let's say they hit a layup each one of those offensive rebounds. That's 20 extra points. That is the type of numbers you're going to have to try and get when you're playing against this Boston Celtics team, especially in the postseason when the game kind of slows down. It's a little bit harder to get those open court stuff without defenses kind of turning you over. So if the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat do meet in the postseason, these are the two things I'm kind of be looking for. Now, once we get there, I do plan on kind of having and we'll, as a collective, have our own breakdowns. Definitely deep dive into the numbers and the positions and the matchups and all those key aspects of the game. But just a grand overview, because those are the two teams that if Miami makes the playoffs, they're going to play one of these two teams. Just want to give a quick overview on the expectations that I see going into the postseason. Now, on the flip side of things, we have, of course, the number 1 team in the conference in the Cleveland Cavaliers. These are Cleveland's numbers against Miami, against 3 games that they have played, averaging about 111 points per game. They're grabbing about 41 rebounds. Again, 5 steals per game for the Cavaliers against Miami, shooting 46% from the field, 38% from the three-point line. 37% from the three-point line. They're averaging about 38 three-point attempts. So like I mentioned, Boston shoots so many threes that 33 might not look like that good of a number. But then you look at Cleveland, they're shooting a lot lower of a number. they're shooting a higher percentage. That's just how it kind of works. That's the give and take when you play that 3-point line. You shoot a high percentage, you're probably gonna miss a lot more than you make, honestly. But if you shoot a lower percentage, you're probably a little bit more efficient overall. Offensive rebounds. That's where I'm going to kind of have my eye drawn to when we talk about the Cavs versus the Heat, because of the size that the Cavaliers have. Mobley, you have a Jarrett Allen, you've got some athletic guards and wings out there as well. To only be giving up 8 offensive rebounds, that's a very good number. That's a very good job by the Heat to keep them off the O boards and be able to now corral the rebound, push and transition. Now maybe you get your own opportunity there. And if you can hold the Cavs to one shot only, I think that will frustrate them a little bit more in the long term, because they've been dominating the conference so long. I don't think they really expect to run into too much trouble with certain teams. If Miami comes in here, and if the Heat play the Cavs, I like that matchup a lot more than Heat versus Celtics, simply because the Cavs are young. They haven't really been tested like that. Spoelstra's going to, do his X's and O's strategies. He's going to game plan for the Cavaliers. He's going to do all these things to put this team in the best position to win. At the end of the day, the Miami Heat are going in there, whether they're 7th or an 8th seed, they're going in there with no expectations. All the experts are going to say, Cavs in 5, Celtics in a sweep, whatever it is. Miami has house money. And when Miami has house money, that's the scariest thing. I'll wrap this up by showing now the Miami versus Cleveland side of things. Look at the numbers. They're averaging about 117 points per game. So this is a world where Miami, that's why I said I like Miami's chances against the Cavs a lot more than I do against Boston. And I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. Now, we look at the numbers. For me, for the Miami Heat, it's 3-point numbers. You are shooting 35% from the 3-point line on about 38 attempts. That's a very good efficiency for the attempts you're getting. If Miami, again, if we look at the numbers now, they're hitting their shots lately these past 6 games. If they can continue to ride that wave into the postseason, I mean past the play-in, you play the Cavaliers, even as an 8th seed, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I really don't. You look back, it's giving me similar vibes back to when we had our play-in run a few years ago, when the Miami Heat were supposed to be the 7th seed. They weren't supposed to lose to the Hawks in the first playing game. Then they beat the Bulls, get the A seed, beat the Bucks, and then the rest is history, obviously. And you find Boston in the conference finals, and it's different. It's a different game now, because you have a lot of games under your belt in the playoffs, in the postseason, in that atmosphere for a lot of those players. I could see similar thing happening this year. Boston, yes, they're one of the best teams in the conference. They're not world beaters. I don't think they're world beaters like they used to be. I really don't. I think last year was a great run. They dominated the conference, but this year things are looking a lot different, and I think they look a lot more vulnerable this year than they did last year, especially because last year, in my opinion, I don't think they were vulnerable to begin with. I think it was their title to lose at the beginning of the year. If the Heat get an 8th seed, I think that's our best chance. Now, I'm not saying that we're hoping they lose the play-in tournament or anything like that. I would love to see them be a 7th seed and give Boston a run for their money, because I'm not saying that they can't do that. But I think if that doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. If anything, it might be a blessing in disguise when it's all said and done. So that's what we can do it for this episode of Heat Digest. Again, let me know down in the comments, what do you think the Heat's winning streak will be going into the postseason? Are we going to be, again, in my opinion, there's a world where we go these 12 games in a row. Can we do that? Is it going to be maybe a 4-game scale like I mentioned, or is it going to be a number in between those two numbers when we talk about these last 6 games of the regular season? Comment down below how far you think the winning streak will last, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of Heat Digest.